What's going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. I want to thank you for joining me for another Third Age Reforged army creation video. I hope you enjoyed our segment on Rune, and today we're going to be coming back again with Arthedain, which is actually really exciting because Arthedain was a faction that for a while didn't have faction bonuses. They didn't have any penalties, but they also didn't have any of the bonuses, which wasn't great for them. So now they have them, and they have for quite a while. I believe since 0.96 they've had them. And, yeah, they've got some really cool armies. So without any further ado, let's get into their faction strengths, and then we can get into the comps. I hope you guys enjoy it. So as you guys doubtlessly saw at the top right of the screen just a moment ago, Arthedain does have a fair amount of specialization. Their cavalry is very good, as are their Dunedain, but most especially their Dunedain cavalry. See some pretty decent stats there on a unit of 80, which is not really what you expect from the Dunedain Mounted Company. They may not stay at 80, but if they go down in size, their stats will obviously increase. But right now, very, very potent tool for Arthedain. With 80 men in the unit, they are very much the rival of a lot of Rohan medium-tier Lancers, so very, very deadly. Then you got the Knights of Numinos, who are a little bit more heavily armored. The Dunedain units, if you take a look, just in general, they tend to be quite lightly armored. But the Knights of Numinos are an exception to that, and they are very, very strong. I think they might be getting a little bit more armor as well in a future patch. And then we come to the Wardens of the North. I cannot praise this unit enough. AP Archers in general are very, very strong because they are such good anti-cavalry tools. You can use these guys to pick off knights from a safe distance before they really become a problem, or to shave off a significant number of their HP, to allow some of your anti-cavalry options, like your wargs or your spear cavalry or your melee cavalry, to better handle them. The Wardens of the North are extremely powerful, they are expensive, low in number, and yeah, they can be focused down by sustained archer fire from much larger, much more numerous units, but they do have they bring their own value in the fact that they are good for taking out important targets. But yeah, Dunedain Troll Slayers, stuff like that, lower armor values in general. But yeah, the Dunedain for Arnor are exceptionally strong. Other factions have access to Dunedain or to Numenorian units, but the Arnorian Dunedain are basically kicked up to 11, I would say. And the other thing is they've got a lot of archers. Look at this. So many nice archer units. Their only high-tier archer is the Band of Brass Archers. They can only bring one of them, but they're really nice. 202 men in the unit is really high for a unit with that missile damage. I think they're pretty much the only unit in the game that pairs a 6 missile damage with this unit size. So they do have a place in their roster, and they are able to hide everywhere, as many of the Hobbits are. And in general, the Hobbits make really strong auxiliaries that have more niche roles. So the Hobbitry and Arms, AP, you can use them to make a hidden line that defends some of your archer units, which can be very, very useful. Hobbit Slingers are kind of like Snaga with their AP missiles. Not a lot of damage on them, but from what I understand, I don't know if this has been implemented yet, but from what I understand, when Kuroguro-chan was thinking about this unit, he wanted them to stagger units more than normal. So I'm not sure if that's implemented right now because I don't really play with Hobbit Slingers a lot. I really should test that though. But if that is true, then they can be useful for slowing down enemy units, breaking up their advance, and things like that, which can delay your enemy from getting to your front lines, allow your archers and your missile units to generally be more effective, or to potentially throw your enemy off balance and make them attack in kind of a more of a piecemeal sort of way rather than one big united hammer coming at you. So yeah, there's some options there with some kind of niche units that can be very, very useful. But yeah, other than that, let's get into some of the comps now. And yeah, I know that's why you guys are here, so yeah, let's take a look at some comps. Now, as any faction that really relies on their cavalry or on their missile units, Arthedain's infantry, in my opinion, are at their best when they are playing defensively, which is kind of appropriate thematically for a faction like Arthedain, but it does make them fairly similar in terms of the infantry fight to, say, Arthedain, for example, as both of the factions are, at least in my humble opinion, very defensive when it comes to an infantry fight. Arthedain has some more options to be offensive elsewhere, but I think in general you're best off trying to play a little bit more defensively with your infantry because they're not exceptionally good. They have a little bit higher melee defense on certain units, and their armor is good, but their shield values are a little bit lower than a faction like Gondor, and there's not a ton of damage here. Like, the Forest Terrain Defenders have 3 damage. The dismounted Forest Terrain Knights are quite nice, and they do add a little bit of offensive oomph to an Arthedain Phalanx, but they are really more of an exception rather than the rule. It's like these 2 units here, D9 Peacekeepers and the Dismounted Knights of Inuinos, that all have damage in the double digits, and I guess the Mercenary War Chiefs as well, but people don't really tend to bring them too often. But you can if you want to. It's not necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, so let's focus on really exemplifying the more defensive approach to warfare that I think is most appropriate with Arthedain. So we got a solid core infantry here with Evendim Spearmen, pairing them with the Arthedain Pikemen. Makes for a pretty nasty front line that's not easy to push through. Depending on how much you want to focus on your infantry, you can bring the 3 pikes plus the Inuminas Gate Guards, plus some more Evendim Spearmen, which is a very long line of pikemen. And then you might have to skimp a little bit elsewhere in your army. I would probably bring some Forest Terrain Knights for when things get really hairy. But then you move on to the Pride and Joy, that being the cavalry units. Let's see here. These guys can be nice. Great Company can be really strong as well. And then we'll throw in a unit of Forest Terrain Knights in there, because they're a little bit more heavily armored. Now we've basically got 2 out of our 3 bases covered. We've got infantry and we've got cavalry. So let's bring some Evendim Archers, because they're quite useful for tar pitting. Bring some Bandit Brass Archers as well. Maybe a unit of Hobbits to use as kind of a throwaway unit. And then you can bring, say, D9 Troll Slayers, for example, if you wanted something pretty nasty to be lying in wait for your enemies once they get closer. You can switch this around a little bit if you wanted to bring some Arthedain Marksmen. Give them some upgrades, do 9 Rangers, and then give yourself some Bandit Brass Archers. Now, this is not a bad army at all. You've got a lot of Ranger firepower, you've got a lot of decent skirmishers, and your front line is fairly substantial. Depending on how you want to play it, I suppose, with your infantry formation, you could not use all of your infantry on your front line. You could, say, keep a unit of Evendim Spearmen in the back and then use the greater numbers for these units to cover for these 4 units of pikemen. And then you've got something that you can use in tandem with your cavalry to defend your wings if people try to get around you. And of course then you've got your dismounted Forest Terrain Knights that you can fall back on, actually give them some extra damage. And let's see here. Yeah, we'll put our general in there. But you've got some nasty cavalry, a lot of lancers here, a good amount of rangers, so anything that comes near your lines is it's gonna be shredded on the approach for sure. The Great Company are so good; they're one of the only mounted ranger units I think still in the game. Harad has some, but people seem to have, at least in the current meta, have fallen in love with them a little bit. I used to see them all the time. Now I don't see them as much, and the unit hasn't really changed, but people have, and how they want to play their games has changed, I guess, a little bit. But yeah, so Great Company, very, very strong, paired with Jedi Rangers. Got a lot of fairly sturdy archers here in the form of the 2 units of Arthedain Marksmen. Then you've got a higher tier archer in the form of the Bandit Brass Archers. So this is a pretty good defensive-oriented build. It's got a really, really solid anvil to the hammer of your cavalry. You've got Rangers that you can use to just shred opponents on the approach. A lot of options here, so I think it's a pretty decent army. And then, of course, you've got some more close-range oomph in the form of your dismounted Forest Terrain Knights, who are quite strong. So let's do something a little bit... It's similar, but it's also kind of different. So we'll take the Arthedain Pikemen there. We're actually going to give these guys some armor upgrades so that they're a little bit more substantial. We'll bring some Inuminas Gate Guards as well. A little bit extra damage, perhaps? Yes. Yes, good. Can I upgrade the Evendim Archers? No, I cannot. But these guys are actually really nice. They're kind of like the Ramsek Court Garrison, just less tanky. But yeah, they can be very, very useful, indeed, for wasting ammunition from your opponents. And then they're cheaper, so you've got some more options in terms of your infantry. So in this case, we're going to bring some Do 9 Peacekeepers, and you're going to use them to defend the wings of the Arthedain Pikemen. Definitely want to bring some dismounted Forest Terrain Knights. Knights of Numinos, why not bring them? They're very strong. Fornoster Rain Knights are also decent lancers. They're kind of more of I'll call them lower tier, but if you look at their stats, they're anything but. Got a lot of armor, but really they've just got a lower charge value, I think, that really sets them apart from the Mounted Dunedain Company. But in this case, I would bring a couple of them, just because they're well armored and you can rely on them pretty heavily. And we're gonna bring a lot more cavalry here as well. Really high focus here on our cavalry, and then we can bring, let's see, unit of G9 Rangers as well. So more infantry focus, some more quality among the infantry line, a lot more cavalry here as well, which can be overwhelming for your opponent. If you're going in, say, with your Fornoster Rain Knights and you want to use them to kind of just dive into enemy archer formations and want to try and destroy them early so that you have a little bit more free reign with your Dunedain Mounted Company, and that's definitely something that you can do, and I think that would be a strength of this particular comp. Then, of course, you can use attack upgrades however you please. Since the Dunedain Mounted Company are a little bit more attack focused, I would give the attack to them in that case. And then give the pikemen some more damage. So this is actually a really strong infantry lineup, and it's not one that's easy to break down. Maybe it won't win in every case, but the pikemen will keep more expensive units at bay for a very long time. So I think this is an army that has some more oomph in close range. You've still got the dismounted Fornoster Rain Knights, but you're a little bit more offensive with your cavalry, and you've invested more into it. But you've still got some rangers, you've still got some tar pit archers, so that your phalanx won't just get skirmished to death. It's a good army. I like it. It's a me. Let's see what else we got here. An Arthedain Rush army. I don't want to shoehorn that in every video, because it's more of a niche pick and it doesn't really show necessarily what the faction is good at. It can in some cases, and it's fun to experiment with. But in this case, I don't think we're going to do that. So we're going to bring some Wardens of the North, because they are nasty, nasty, nasty. And instead, we're going to issue the Knights of Numinos in favor of the Wardens of the North, and saving a little bit of money in that way. So, 2 Dunedain Mounted Company. Maybe we'll even go crazy and bring a unit of the Court of House Amlaith, who have similar stats to the Fornoster Rain Knights. They don't have 8 armor. They actually have 9, which is what they're supposed to have. And yeah, they're basically a super powered unit of the Fornoster Rain Knights that are just better in every way. And let's see what else we got here. Gonna do the standard Evendim Spearmen. The Evendim units are just so essential to Arthedain's roster, in my opinion. Yeah, you can't really afford not to bring them. So since we've got a little bit of extra money, we'll splurge a bit on our pikemen, and then we've got our infantry line up there. We're going to bring a couple units of the Fornoster Rain Defenders. Sorry if you guys heard that. Car just drove by my house. Instead of the Dunedain Peacekeepers. So we're going to go instead more for economy here rather than quality. And then let's try and bring the Numinos Knights, because they're sexy, and I love them. And then some more badass infantry units that we can use in close quarters. And now we've got about 1,700 to spend on ranged units. Let's see here. Let's do it this way. No. Because if we bring 2 units of the Banderbreast Archers, then we can bring... or 2 units of the Evendim Archers, then we can bring some Banderbreast Archers, and that gives you a fairly fleshed out, balanced force here. That doesn't focus quite as much on the archers, but you've got some nice cavalry. You've got more infantry here that are really nasty, and you've got the Wardens of the North, who again are an anti-cavalry tool. So you don't necessarily need the Knights of Numinos in every case. I think that you can you can swap them with the Wardens of the North, and they can be reasonably interchangeable, but it will change your playstyle up just a little bit. But most of the armies that we've seen so far have been very defensive, and they've really been focused around, say, field battles and things like that. So let's do a siege army before we kind of check out here for today. Sieges, obviously, pikemen are going to be really, really important, and you're not going to have to focus as much on cavalry. So this is really going to shake up Arthedain's playstyle a fair amount. Evendim Spearmen. might not be as necessary. I think because you're not going to spend money on cavalry, you can afford to buy the Arthedain defenders, and I would give them. I would even give them a little bit of extra attack. Javelin's going to be a nasty thing to have, so we're going to bring a couple units of the javelins, and that's going to be our elite pick, basically entirely. This is a situation where rangers will be very useful, and giving him archers, yeah, we'll splurge on them just a little bit. But let's see, what else could be particularly nice here? You know, surprisingly enough, we haven't made a comp here with Arthedain men-at-arms, and they can be really useful tar pits, especially if you want to upgrade them too. Bump them up to 675. They've got as much armor as their Gondorian brothers, but they've also got a little bit more melee skill, I believe. So there you have it. A couple of units there of the Arthedain men-at-arms. Maybe we'll go for a third one just to give us a little bit more numbers. And since we're bringing the Arthedain men-at-arms, let's actually retract the attack on the spearmen, because it's not really necessary at this point now. What else could be useful here? Let's go with, yeah, they're the dismounted Numinos Knights. Going to be useful for inspiring and for keeping the rest of these units in check, preventing like chain rounds and things like that. Let's see, we've got a fair amount of money left over. Could bring another unit of archers, give them some armor there, which would be nice. And then, ooh, it's hard. It's really hard to say, isn't it? There we go. A couple units there of Arthedain Knights. Oops. Get rid of the armor, and then we'll give some attack to these guys. That's a pretty nasty army there. You've got some things like your pikemen and your spearmen that you can use to bottle people up. You've got some tools like the Dune Troll Slayers to punish them for getting stuck in a choke point and overcommitting. And the best part is they're hidden. Actually, I think you can't hide units in a siege, which is very, very strange. So, yeah, they won't be able to you won't be able to surprise your enemy in the same way. For whatever reason, I don't know why you can't hide things in a siege. That makes, like, complete sense. You could hide things in a siege better than you can hide things in a field, but whatever. I didn't make the game. So yeah, a nice little siege army there from Arthedain. A lot of numbers, a lot of decent tools there, and it's also paired with some pretty strong elites. So yeah, pretty sexy. So that's going to be it for our army comp video. I hope you guys have found this instructive. If you guys have some comments or suggestions or criticisms about the format, it is very much stream of consciousness. I will do some comps beforehand, and I'll do some research on Arthedain, and sometimes I'll talk to some of the Arthedain players and stuff. But largely, it's a lot of me talking and me just giving my opinions on things. So if that's not what you guys like, and you'd like something a little bit more, I don't know, methodical, perhaps, or I guess sort of, in a sense, scientific, then I can make that happen for you guys. But I am one of the people that's in charge of balance, so I do have a fair amount to say in this regard, but yeah, if you guys want to see things change a little bit, then you have only to ask. In any case, my name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. Hope you guys found this useful, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.